in the Shores of Tripoli Tournament of Champions online tournament. I am playing my second game of round 3 here as Tripoli. Hope you'll tune in to see what happens here on Legendary Tactics. So my initial opening hand for Tripoli is really, I only see Tunis Declares War as really the only card of interest in this opening hand. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of other great stuff. So the U.S. ends up blockading Tripoli on me. Interesting that he didn't have a naval movement card off the bat. So I'm going to just take Murad Reyes breaks out before it can be canceled. And the U.S. authorizes action via their Congress to set up a couple extra frigates for 1802. Perfect time to play that card. So I'm going to try the Philadelphia Runs Aground. Now, normally I really wouldn't risk this without Uncharted Waters in hand. And as you can see, I rolled a 1, which sent that frigate back to Malta. A bit of a waste. That's such a powerful card, and it's so important to have that card be a success. So if you can play Uncharted Waters with it, I mean, obviously it's no guarantee, but I think it's a better way to go. And I learned my lesson from that play because the frigates all turn around and come back. So probably my better move there would have been a pirate raid. At any rate, we're going to try naval battle in Tripoli. I don't know again if this is worthwhile. Again, I don't know for sure what I was thinking there, but I think there was a bit of a sense that there wasn't a lot of options. Otherwise, there was some pretty decent blockade there, and I thought, well, maybe I can get lucky and damage some frigates, but I missed. And I lost a Corsair. All things considered, not terrible. Did send the U.S. frigates back to Malta, which meant that a turn had to be wasted to bring them back in. So, I mean, it wasn't great, but anyway, I discarded a card to build another Corsair back up in Tripoli. So now I have Storms. Obviously, that's a great card as soon as the blockade steps up in front of Tripoli. I also have Algiers Declares War and Algerian Corsairs Raid, which is perfect. And Tunis and Morocco declare war, and I also have the Moroccan Corsairs Raid. So lots of great cards here. And I have to discard 1. I think the U.S. supply runs low is a pretty easy choice there. So there might be the possibility of a Yusuf Karamanli play this turn. We'll see if we can get away with it. It depends on which cards the U.S. picked up in terms of, either the show of force or the other one, the tribute paid. So anyway, so naval movement does some bombarding. And manages to get one of my troops out of Dern. So I declare war as Morocco. That was partly a test to see what cards the U.S. might have in hand. And I see early deployment, which is an interesting semi-counter to my play. But what I was happy to see is that there wasn't a direct card to cancel my ally. So I thought, okay, well, perfect. We'll play Algiers. And then I was surprised with the tribute paid, which did net me 2 coins. So I declared war as Tunis, knowing that card was out of the deck. Now, Bainbridge is always a risk, I suppose, but the U.S. decided to blockade me a bit there. Now, I have no problem sacrificing Corsairs on the part of my allies. I hope they get through, but at the end of the day, they're going to be short-lived in this game anyway. So it's winter of 1802. There is no frigate coming next turn. So I thought, well, let's just do Yusuf Karamanli, get the most out of this. I've got some blockades to run, but let's see how this goes. And unfortunately, the Americans intercept 3 Corsairs from Tripoli, and I miss 3 rolls of 1. So no merchant ships. That's pretty brutal. Managed to get 2 merchant ships from Tangier. None of them sunk. And totally missed the merchant ships with Tunis. So overall, it was a very disappointing play. Could have gone much better, but I suppose it could have been potentially worse. But geez, I don't know how. Anyway, we move on to 1803. And so I'm looking at my cards here. And I've got the opportunity to raid from Algiers. And I do have things like U.S. signal books overboard, happy hunting. These are all good cards. Sweden pays tribute. I've got to keep that in hand. Sweden hasn't turned up yet, so that's not a bad card to have in hand. So, but I've got to discard 3 cards, so it's going to be tough, and it was a very tough decision. But this is my hand that I ended up with here. So perhaps I should have dropped the troops to Benghazi as well, because it's unlikely I'm going that far. But troops to Dern certainly is worth getting on there, and troops to Tripoli obviously is a great card as well. So the U.S. builds a gunboat, and so I tried to raid from Morocco. I managed to get one merchant ship in exchange for a corsair. I think that's a fair trade. Some more frigates start moving around to bombard Dern and clear that out. So I'm going to replace my corsairs because I really want to get the best possible use out of happy hunting as I can, and the blockade is very weak at the moment. Now, the U.S. spotted that and reinforced, and so I replaced troops to Dern. And the U.S. Again looking to bombard Dern and missed, fortunately. So so that was a reasonable plan on the Americans' part. But I get my troops to Tripoli card just to build up. I can see there's a plan in the works there to potentially move in on Dern very quickly. And now Hamet's army is available. And even though the U.S. didn't plan ahead and get a frigate in Alexandria, I love to get that frigate there ready to go for spring of 1804. It's a very likely, either in spring or summer of 1804, that I'm going to be playing Hamet's army, and I want to do that quickly so I can free up that frigate for future use. Now I've got a couple of I've got some raiders from Tunis and Morocco, and they're great cards, but it's just and Uncharted Waters, which very late to pick that up, but that's essentially a useless card now for me. So anyway, I discarded a couple cards there. I don't know why I kept Uncharted Waters. I realized that was probably a silly thing to keep, but I kept 1 raiding card each, figuring that there would probably be, by this point in the game, it's probably going to be Show of Force, and it's a 50-50 whether whether I get to use the which raiding card I get to use. I'm hoping that Show of Force is used in Morocco, but we'll see. So anyway, I discard down. The U.S. Plays naval movement to lead off and sets up the Hamet's army, does some bombardment, and gets a troop. So I'm going to strike now while I still can and raid from Tunis. I managed to get a merchant ship and didn't lose any corsairs. Hamet's army arrives, and I raid from Morocco, and no merchant ships captured, just lost a corsair. So again, they're fairly expendable at this point. I'm still waiting for more ships to turn up in a patrol zone so I can use storms. You want to make sure that hits as many frigates as possible. Show of Force, I knew that one was coming, so there we go. There goes the Tunisians, and I'm going to reinforce Benghazi. Again, I'm not sure what the overall plan is, but I was figuring that it's probably a treaty at this stage, but we'll have to see. So I just reinforced Benghazi just in case. And the U.S. does some naval movement to just crush me in both Dern and Tangier. And actually, interestingly, gets the hit that they needed in Tangier, and in Dern they miss. So not that I think it's that much of a concern as far as that goes. for the for Dern. It's not going to put up a heck of a fight. So now, and again, I don't know why I hung on to Uncharted Waters there. That was silly. Again, and the U.S. discards down and plays Constantinople Demands Tribute, and kind of takes the piracy. Not that piracy was much of a threat because of my bad rolling, but I'm just figuring it's going to be a battle for Tripoli. So I thought, well, let's do a pirate raid. There's only 3 ships there. How many could they possibly intercept? Well, they intercepted 2. And so anyway, I played U.S. signal books overboard and dropped Bainbridge, which is great at this stage of the game. That's awesome because that card is not coming back. And I rolled reasonably well with Happy Hunting, doing the lion's share of the work. I managed to get 3 merchant ships. Still struggling to get this this game together. My merchant ship converted. That sets up potential future pirate raids as well as decent defense of Tripoli. The invasion of Dern happens, and the naval bombardment does nothing, which was interesting. I didn't have Mercenaries Desert, which would have been great, but anyway. The card Constantinople Sends Aid was pretty much mandatory for me to play. Thomas Jefferson is next up, and he looks like the U.S. is going all in on a preemptory naval battle, only with 1 gunboat, though. Now, they didn't play Preble's Boys, and so I thought, well, you know what? Here's my chance. Guns of Tripoli. And they scored 2 hits, and I scored 5. So I would say that's a pretty decent use of that card, even though they're all going to come back later, as far as the frigates go. But left me an open play there to do a pirate raid with 5 Corsairs. Of course, I only get 1 merchant ship. Would have been really great to get 3. That would have really put the pressure on. Naval movement, another big battle for Tripoli. And this time, the U.S. scores 0 hits. Tripoli scores 4. So that was good. If only it's just the winter of 1805, so they're all coming back. But at least hopefully it's going to be a bit of a challenge to to get there. Gives me a free pirate raid again, and I only got 1. That could have been the game. And really poor rolling on those last 2 pirate raids cost me dearly, unfortunately. So I was banking on something along the lines of an invasion of Tripoli. So I was hanging on to Sweden Pays Tribute just to keep the Swedish out of the patrol zone, and I kind of was forced to hang on to it. Luckily, there was lots of things like Corsairs raiding and so forth. So my cards were very easy to decide on as far as discards. The only problem was they weren't that great in terms of the cards that I could have really used. Unfortunately, like they're okay, but there's a couple decent ones. But anyway, naval movement first, and the pirate blockade goes up. And so I thought, well, let's reinforce Tripoli because that's probably where it's headed. And then burn the Philadelphia along with Stephen Decatur happens. And my frigate is sunk. And that's where again, Uncharted Waters, you can go all the way back to the beginning. Uncharted Waters along with the Philadelphia runs aground would have been potentially a preventative move here. And instead, I am totally toast when it comes to a treaty win. So I do an all-in pirate raid, and I'm at 11 merchant ship, 11 coins when the treaty win hits. Absolutely ridiculous, but well played on the part of my opponent. However, I thought that this game really should have gone my way. Just 1 different die roll would have changed the entire game. For me, I'm sure that my opponent was holding on to the Swedish ships because my opponent knew Sweden Pays Tribute was in there. But anyway, yeah, just bad luck on that. A couple misplays, obviously, but But at the end of the game, I really felt it should have gone my way. But anyway, that's the game, and I hope you enjoyed watching this little walkthrough. My play hopefully is giving you some strategy ideas and you can learn from my mistakes. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe down below, and we'll see you here next time on Legendary Tactics.